Chapter 545. Moon-worshipping cult's 9 great god Magisprius were famous. Yin Zhongjuan's strength was enough to rank in the top 3 among the 9 great god Magispriests. He was probably not far from the true fire spirit refinement realm. Some of the martial artists present looked at Yin Zhongjuan and Zhen Yangzi with the mentality of watching a show. One was a diabolism tyrant, the other was a Dao sect perfected master who hated evil. If these two were to fight, they would probably be badly beaten before even entering Xiaofan heaven. At this moment, Chu Xiu's gaze was on the people behind Yin Zhongjuan. Led by moon-worshipping cult Saintess, behind her were 9 young disciples of moon-worshipping cult, and some young elite disciples who had reached the unity of heaven and man realm. In this way, moon-worshipping cult had a total of 11 keys. This accumulation was really terrifying. Moreover, Chu Xiu also discovered a problem. 4 big sects like moon-worshipping cult and Chunyang Dao sect, they did not give all the keys to martial Dao Grand Masters. Instead, they only sent 1 expert who had the strength to control the situation, and the rest of the keys were given to the younger generation of disciples. Of course, this did not mean that these big sects would be modest, but it was a manifestation of their deep accumulation. In the booklet that Guan Siyu gave to Chu Xiu, there was a description of the spirit energy in Xiaofan heaven. It was rich in spirit energy and there were countless rare treasures. However, because the rules were different from the outside world, the first time you entered, your body would be cleansed by the spirit energy. The elixirs and opportunities obtained from there were also different from the outside world. The effect was also the greatest for the first time. However, the second time he entered, the effects would be halved, and any opportunities that could strengthen his cultivation would be greatly reduced. The third time he entered, the original foundation would be halved again. Therefore, entering Xiaofan heaven too many times was actually a bit of a waste, because the things you could obtain would become less and less. After realizing this, those big sects figured out the rules and formulated such a rule to give most of the opportunities to the younger generation of martial artists. If these young martial artists obtained opportunities and stepped into the martial Dao Grand Master realm, they would have the opportunity to enter Xiaofan heaven again in the future. Therefore, for these martial artists who came from big sects, as long as they could become martial Dao Grand Masters, almost everyone would have 2 chances to enter Xiaofan heaven. Although they would compete, they would not fight for it. For example, the Guanzhong torture room had 3 keys. Although it was not as extravagant as the moon-worshipping cult, it was not a small number. In the end, they still had to rely on internal strife to decide who could go and who could not. The difference in their background was not just a little bit. At this moment, Zhen Yangzi's face darkened when he saw Yin Zhongjuan's arrogant words. Without saying a word, the pure Yang Dao sword in his hand shone with a dazzling brilliance. Pure Yang energy descended like the sun. With a swing of the sword, all techniques were destroyed, and it slashed towards Yin Zhongjuan. Good timing. Yin Zhongjuan let out a long laugh. With a wave of his wide sleeves, the heavens and earth were instantly tainted by demonic energy. Boundless black clouds of demonic energy swept over like a tornado, wrapping around Zhen Yangzi's pure Yang sword astral sword. With a flick of his sleeves, a series of ear-piercing explosions rang out. The pure Yang sword astral sword was directly destroyed. Zhen Yangzi snorted coldly and swung the horsetail whisk in his hand. Traces of earth energy seemed to be immersed in it, and the power of heaven and earth was pulled by the horsetail whisk. It stretched for hundreds of feet, and directly entangled Yin Zhongjuan. However, Yin Zhongjuan sneered and directly punched out. The demonic aura was vast and mighty, tearing the horsetail whisk into pieces. Zhen Yangzi's figure could not help but retreat. Yin Zhongjuan laughed loudly and formed a seal with his hands. The demonic clouds pressed down, and turned into the phantom of a demon with 2 horns on its head. It directly shrouded Zhen Yangzi and directly attacked. Just at this moment, a deafening sound of thunder rang out. The violet firmament lightning suddenly exploded, and the demon god's shadow was directly smashed into pieces. Purple heaven thunder. Yin Zhongjuan was shocked and his figure retreated. The others also looked up into the sky. Longhu Mountain's celestial master abode, unparalleled in the world in controlling thunder. In this world, Who else could control such thunder other than Longhu Mountain's celestial master abode? Sure enough, a middle-aged man in a white robe with a temperament like a spring breeze walked out from behind. He shook his head and said, "Brother Zhenyangzi, you haven't entered little mortal heaven yet. Why are you wasting your energy here?" Zhenyangzi snorted coldly and said, "Everyone has the right to punish evil. Zhang Xiling, your Longhu Mountain's celestial master abode is in West Chu, but in the end, you just sat and watched the moon-worshipping cult grow to such an extent. Doesn't your celestial master abode feel guilty?" Zhang Xiling was speechless. She was here to mediate. Why was she dragged into this? Yin Zhongjuan laughed strangely and said, "So it's Purple Cloud Immortal Lord Zhang Xiling. Some people just don't know what's good for them. It's useless to persuade them." Zhang Xiling said lightly, "What Purple Cloud Immortal Lord? I'm just a Taoist priest in the Golden Light Pavilion who transcribes books." Yin Zhongjuan laughed and said, "His writing is like a thunderbolt and his martial aura is like the sound of thunder. There are only a few people in the entire celestial master abode who are qualified to use the power of thunder to transcribe in the Golden Light Pavilion." Zhenyangzi saw that the two of them were actually chatting. He couldn't help but say angrily, "Zhang Xiling, are you still a member of my Taoism lineage? If you are a member of my Taoism lineage, then join forces with me and kill this evil demon." Zhang Xiling instantly frowned. Why can't this old guy understand? Is this a place to kill demons? Moreover, if the celestial master abode could destroy the moon-worshipping cult, they wouldn't have to be neighbors with the moon-worshipping cult for so long. Just now he had taken action because he was also a member of the Taoism lineage. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have meddled in other people's business and directly entered Xiaofan heaven. At this time, a gentle male voice suddenly said, "Senior Zhenyangzi, when will it be too late to kill the evil demon?" However, for the Chunyang Dao sect, the current task should be to bring the junior brothers of the Chunyang Dao sect into Xiaofan heaven. To kill the evil demon, how can you kill it without improving your own strength? You have the strength but the other junior brothers don't. As the voice rang out, a handsome young man wearing the same white Taoist robe as Zhang Xiling slowly walked over with his hair draped over his shoulders. In terms of handsomeness, the young man was not as stunning as LV1 Ho and Ing Bailu. However, his eyes seemed to have a faint divine light, and the aura around him was ethereal and formless, just like an immortal. In short, this was a man that people could not forget at first glance. Little celestial master Zhang Qingzhen. There was a sudden exclamation, and almost everyone looked at Zhang Qingzhen. Chu Xiu also looked at Zhang Qingzhen curiously. One could not blame the crowd for making a fuss, as Zhang Qingzhen was really famous. As a genius that only appeared once in 1,000 years in the celestial master abode's Zhang family, Zhang Qingzhen was born with a thunder mark on his palm. Legend had it that he was even the reincarnation of a Tao lord. Since stepping into the pugilistic world, Zhang Qingzhen had never tasted defeat. This record was not only against the younger generation of martial artists, but also against the older generation of martial Tao masters. When Chu Xiu killed Qiao Liandong, he was one of the few people in the younger generation who had killed a martial Tao master. However, when Chu Xiu killed Qiao Liandong, he did not see it, and Chu Xiu also had a hard time in that battle. With Yan Qixiao's help, Chu Xiu used all his means to kill Qiao Liandong. However, the scene of Zhang Qingzhen killing a martial Tao master was done in front of everyone. And those who saw the battle said that Zhang Qingzhen did not even use his full strength. The process was simply an understatement. Therefore, after that battle, some people said that Zhang Qingzhen could even step into the martial Tao Grandmaster realm at any time. However, he did not break through because he was cultivating a secret method or accumulating his foundation by forcibly suppressing his realm. Although Zhang Qingzhen was a younger generation martial artist in name, no one treated him as a junior martial artist because Zhang Qingzhen was more terrifying than most martial Tao masters. Seeing that Zhang Qingzhen was trying to persuade Zhenyangzi from a different angle, Zhenyangzi snorted coldly when he recalled that he was here on a mission from the sect. "I'll let you off this time, demon. If I ever meet you again in little mortal heaven, I won't let you off easily." After saying that, Zhenyangzi led the disciples of Chunyang Dao sect into Xiafanshan. Yin Zhongjuan looked at Zhang Qingzhen and chuckled. Little celestial master Zhang Qingjin is indeed worthy of your reputation. Your bearing is unparalleled. It's a pity that some people are stubborn and won't listen to advice. Zhang Xiling and Zhang Qingjin did not say anything. Chunyang Dao sect was like this, and there was nothing they could do. Everyone could see that Yin Zhongjuan's strength was far superior to Zhen Yangzi's. If it was someone else, they would have given up for the time being. However, Zhen Yangzi was stubborn to the end. No one knew if he was stubborn or if he did not know what was good for him. At this time, Yin Zhongjuan said again, "With your strength, it doesn't seem to make a difference whether you enter Xiafanshan or not. Even the spiritual energy opportunities in Xiafanshan are just icing on the cake for you. I didn't expect you to come this time. I thought you would give the opportunity to other disciples of Celestial Master Mansion." There was no lack of provocation in Yin Zhongjuan's tone, but Zhang Qingjin just said lightly, "I have never seen such a strange mystic realm like Little Mortal Heaven in my life. This time, I will take it as an opportunity to see the world. I'm quite popular in Celestial Master Mansion. Even if I don't have the opportunity, as long as I want to enter, other senior and junior brothers will give the opportunity to me." As soon as he finished speaking, 11 disciples of the Celestial Master Abode walked out of the dense forest behind Zhang Qingjin. They stood behind Zhang Qingjin, which made everyone's eyes turn red with envy. If it were other sects, the 1 or 2 keys would have to be given to martial Dao grandmasters. Junior martial artists were not qualified to use them at all. However, in the Celestial Master Mansion, such a precious opportunity to enter Xiaofan Heaven could be given around. Chapter 546. The most dangerous thing in Xiaofan Heaven was not the dangers in the secret territory, but the people. It was inevitable that there would be fights to the death between the righteous and demonic sections. However, in the outside world, everyone was relatively restrained. There were only a few people like Zhen Yangzi who attacked the demonic sects when they saw them. After Yin Zhongjuan and Zhang Qingjin probed each other for a while, they directly led their respective disciples into Xiaofan Heaven. After the 2 groups of people had left, the crowd sighed in admiration. The little celestial master, Zhang Qingjin, lived up to his name. Although Zhang Qingjin did not attack just now, everyone saw Zhang Qingjin's bearing. This time, the leader of the Longhu Mountain Celestial Master Mansion should be Zhang Xiling. However, as soon as Zhang Qingjin appeared, everyone present almost forgot about Zhang Xiling. They thought that Zhang Qingjin was the leader of the Celestial Master Mansion. This was a brilliant existence. As long as Zhang Qingjin was there, it was enough to cover anyone's brilliance. Chu Xiu waited here for half a day. Quite a few sects came, and there were also some rogue cultivators who held a few keys in their hands. However, most of these people were more obedient. After they arrived, they directly entered Xiaofan Heaven without any delay. Chu Xiu also saw the people from the Real Martial Arts sect. As one of the 3 major Dao sects, the Real Martial Arts sect was very low-key. Only 3 people came. There was only 1 martial arts grandmaster, and 2 warriors of the unity of heaven and men realm. This was rather strange. However, the Real Martial Arts sect had always been low-key, but no one in the underworld dared to ignore the Real Martial Arts sect. Even though the Longhu Mountain Celestial Master Mansion was now the leader of the Dao sects, they still had to respect the Real Martial Arts sect. This was because the Real Martial Arts sect had an immortal, Ning Xuanji, who broke the Kunlun Devil cult and swept the entire underworld. In the past, when the Kunlun Devil cult dominated the world, if Ning Xuanji did not appear out of nowhere and fight Dugu Weiwei, then both of them disappeared. The underworld would still be in a situation where the demonic flames were overflowing and the righteous sects were declining. Therefore, regardless of the current strength of the true martial sect, at least with Ning Xuanji's halo, the status of the true martial sect was still there. In the evening, Chu Xiu even saw the people from the phaseless demon sect arrive. The person leading them was Mr. Liu and 2 martial artists who were one with the world realm. Mr. Liu also saw Chu Xiu. Their gazes met for a moment, and then they swept past each other like 2 passers-by. Then, Mr. Liu brought his people into Xiaofan world. In the evening, Lu Fengxian finally arrived with Shui Wuxiang and the other 3. "Brother Chu, sorry to keep you waiting." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "No worries, Xie Xiao Lu and the others probably won't arrive until tomorrow, but you've missed a few good shows. Lu Fengxian was surprised. Oh, what show? Yun Zhongjuan from the moon-worshipping sect fought against Zhen Yangzi from the Chunyangdao sect for a few times. As I thought, none of the 9 divine magispriests of the moon-worshipping sect are weak. Also, little celestial master Zhang Qingjin has arrived. Lu Fengxian asked curiously, what kind of person is little celestial master Zhang Qingjin? People who had never seen Zhang Qingjin before were always curious about Zhang Qingjin. After all, the other party's reputation in the pugilistic world was a little too loud. Lu Fengxian had already heard of Zhang Qingjin's name countless times in the pugilistic world. Chu Xiu muttered, it's a little hard to say, but it's appropriate to describe him with one word, that is, he lives up to his name. The words lives up to his name were not too high a compliment, but when one thought of the rumors about Zhang Qingjin in the pugilistic world, these words were very terrifying. Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian sat cross-legged on the ground and chatted. The next morning, Chen Qingdi finally arrived with Xie Xiaolu. Seeing that Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian were actually waiting for him here, Xie Xiaolu hurriedly walked over in surprise and said, Brother Chu, Brother Lu, sorry for being late. My master only has one key. In order to let me enter the minor Fantion, he went to buy another key. The World Alliance had just risen not long ago, so it was not strange for Chen Qingdi to only have one key. However, it was really strange that he could still buy a key. Chu Xiu had a strange expression and said, someone would really sell this thing to you? Xie Xiaolu said, at first that guy didn't intend to sell it, but then my master insisted on buying it, so he could only sell it. Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian glanced at Chen Qingdi's back. So he was forcefully buying and selling? However, this kind of thing was also in line with Chen Qingdi's style. Seeing Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian's expressions, Xie Xiaolu hurriedly said, my master is very strict with the rules. The one holding the key is only a small aristocratic family. There was originally a martial Dao grandmaster ancestor in the family, but he passed away many years ago. Many people know that they hold the key in their hands. Now that the minor Fantion has opened, if it wasn't for my master, his key would have been snatched away. Moreover, that small aristocratic family is very weak. Even if they enter the minor Fantion, they probably won't get anything good. My master gave them a high price, so they didn't lose out. Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian's expressions became even more strange. Chen Qingdi knows the rules? He only follows his own rules. Xie Xiaolu greeted Chen Qingdi, and then he himself waited here. In a while Mo Tianlin would also come. However, after waiting for a few hours, the Mo family's people did come, but only the Mo family's master came. There was no sign of Mo Tianlin. The three looked at each other and didn't say anything. It was obvious that Mo Tianlin couldn't come. He didn't have the key. The Mo family was one of the 9 great aristocratic families, but now it seemed that the Mo family's foundation was worrying. The entire Mo family actually only had one key. However, Mo Tianlin didn't come but Luo Feiheng did. I say, you guys aren't all waiting for me, are you? Haha, I'm very touched, but it's impossible for me to repay you with my body. Luo Feiheng was wearing a pure white warrior suit, which outlined her curvaceous figure, but her heroic spirit was even stronger than before. She also had a cheerful smile on her face, which was much better than when she was forced to marry by the Luo family. Obviously, she had walked out of the shadow. Seeing Luo Feiheng, Chu Xiu asked in surprise, why are you here? After leaving the Luo family, Luo Feiheng could only be considered a rogue cultivator. Of course, even if Luo Feiheng was in the Luo family now, the Luo family wouldn't give Luo Feiheng the opportunity to enter the minor Fantion. It's the key that Master Mo Yezi gave me. Luo Feiheng shrugged and said, Master Mo Yezi is a great grandmaster of blacksmithing. His collection is definitely more profound than you can imagine. Master Mo Yezi only asked me to enter the minor Fantion to take a look. If there are any rare ores or other things inside, I'll just bring them to him. Chu Xiu nodded. Mo Yezi almost treated Luo Feiheng as his own daughter, so the key to the minor Fantion wasn't very useful to Master Mo Yezi. Therefore, it was normal for him to give it to Luo Feiheng. Since Mo Tianlin wasn't here, Chu Xiu and the others chatted for a while, and decided on a location to meet up. Just as Chu Xiu and the others were about to enter the minor Fan Tian, a voice filled with hatred came from behind Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu looked back and saw a group of white-clothed cultivators holding longswords walking straight towards him. Among them was Chu Xiu's old acquaintance, Fang Qishao. There was also Sword King City's Xingjian Hall's head, Formless Sword by Qian, whom Chu Xiu had seen at the Righteous and Demonic Path battle on Floating Jade Mountain. As for the guy who was looking at Chu Xiu with hatred, he was Lin Kaiyun, a young elite who was second only to Fang Qishao in Sword King City. Back in the Guanzhong torture room, Lin Kaiyun was defeated by Chu Xiu on the spot, causing his state of mind to be destroyed. Since then, he had been unable to recover. To be honest, this was the first time Chu Xiu had seen someone with such a fragile state of mind like Lin Kaiyun. As a cultivator, ups and downs, winning and losing were very normal things. To put it bluntly, Lin Kaiyun was a sore loser. Chu Xiu had long forgotten such a character. However, Chu Xiu had not expected to see him again. Lin Kaiyun seemed to have recovered from the blow of the past, and his strength had even risen to the 5 Qis gathering in the origin stage. However, there was still a long way to go before Fang Qishao. Glancing at Lin Kaiyun, who was looking at him with hatred, Chu Xiu greeted Fang Qishao. "Brother Fang, long time no see." Fang Qishao shrugged and said, "Long time no see. Also, congratulations on stepping into the unity of heaven and man realm, Brother Liu." Lin Kaiyun saw that Chu Xiu was actually chatting with Fang Qishao, and his face turned black with anger. "Senior Brother Fang. This guy is Chu Xiu, the one who had enmity with my Sword King City in the past. Chu Xiu, you didn't draw a clear line with him, but now you're talking and laughing here. What's the meaning of this?" In the eyes of outsiders, or those who were familiar with him like Chu Xiu, 7th young Master Fang did not have anything reliable about him other than his own strength. But at this time, after listening to Lin Kaiyun, Fang Qishao's face suddenly sank and he said coldly, "Draw a clear line? Lin Kaiyun, are you still dreaming or have you slept too much? Who gave you the qualifications to talk to me like this? You're the one who has enmity with Chu Xiu. I won't stop you if you want to seek revenge. Considering that we're from the same sect, I'll just give you a word of advice. Don't court death. Now you want to provoke me to help you? Do you really think I'm an idiot? Solve your enmity on your own. Don't drag Sword King City into everything. Sword King City's reputation is ruined by people like you." Fang Qishao, who had always been very indecent, suddenly became angry at this time, and the atmosphere was unusually oppressive. Bai Qian frowned and said, "Enough, Lin Kaiyun. Don't cause trouble. I'm giving you a chance this time not to cause trouble, but to let you search for opportunities in Little Fan Heaven." Hearing Bai Qian's words, even if Lin Kaiyun was dissatisfied with Chu Xiu, he could only endure it. Fang Qishao casually waved his hand at Chu Xiu and the others, and then directly followed Bai Qian into Little Fan Heaven. After walking for a while, Bai Qian said in a deep voice, "7th young master, Chu Xiu isn't an easy person to deal with. He doesn't walk the right path, so it's best for you to avoid contact with him. Although Lin Kaiyun is slightly immature, he's still your junior brother, the future of Sword King City." Fang Qishao lazily sheathed his sword behind him and said, "What's the right path and what's the wrong path? The one who walks the fastest and farthest is the right path. There aren't many people in the underworld that can enter my eyes, so if we can't be friends, then we can only be enemies. As for Lin Kaiyun, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but if Sword King City's future depends on trash like him, then it will have no future." Chapter 547. Chu Xiu did not put Lin Kaiyun's matter in his eyes. In the Jianghu, there were many people like Lin Kaiyun who did not know what was going on. Sword King City was the overlord of the western regions, so they were very overbearing. In the entire Sword King City, only Fang Qishao was different. Chu Xiu, Lu Fengxian, and the others did not continue to waste time, and entered Xiaofan Heaven. As soon as he stepped into Xiaofan Heaven, Chu Xiu immediately felt a strong heaven and earth essence qi. Moreover, this heaven and earth essence qi was not ordinary. It was almost tangible, and it actively rushed into Chu Xiu's body. It even made Chu Xiu's cultivation rise slightly. Chu Xiu had to admit that Xiaofan Heaven was really a treasure land. Even if he did not get anything, As long as he could get out of here alive, it would be considered as a gain. Looking around, there was no one around Chu Xiao. It seemed that everyone was really sent to other places randomly. However, Chu Xiao had already discussed with Lu Fengxian and the others. No matter where they were sent to, they just had to move towards the east. Anyway, there would be a chance to meet them along the way. While walking, Chu Xiao carefully observed the scenery in Xiaofan heaven. The entire small Fantian gave Chu Xiao only one feeling, and that was desolate. There were huge towering trees everywhere, but the ground seemed to be the ruins of a huge city. Some traces could still be seen. Some looked like the ruins of a city, and some looked like the ruins of a sect. However, at this time, most of them were fragmented, and some were even buried deep in the ground. Along the way, all kinds of rare and exotic fruits could be seen on the road under the stimulation of the rich heaven and earth essence qi. But now, at Chu Xiao's level, he only picked some rare spiritual herbs above 6th revolution. Elixirs that were slightly lower than the 6th revolution didn't have much effect on Chu Xiao now. So after plucking these elixirs, Chu Xiao directly threw them into his mouth. It wasn't that Chu Xiao didn't want to use these elixirs for alchemy, but the elixirs in Little Fantian were special. Once they left Little Fantian, their spiritual qi would dissipate abnormally fast. Perhaps this was also related to the abundance of spiritual qi in Little Fantian. As long as it left Little Fantian, its spiritual qi would dissipate within 10 days, and it would completely wither. 10 days was not enough for an alchemist to refine the spiritual medicine into a pill, so everyone could only consume and refine it on the spot in Xiaofan heaven. At this moment, the sound of fighting suddenly came from the front. Chu Xiao went up to take a look, and saw that there were quite a few people in front. Among them, several martial artists at the unity of heaven and man realm gathered together, and guarded a palace that seemed to have collapsed. The rest of the martial artists were of different levels. Some were at the unity of heaven and man realm, and some were at the 5 Qis unification realm, but they were all blocked outside. One of them said angrily, "Isn't your Xiahou clan and Lu clan a little too much? This place was found by everyone together, but your 2 clans want to go back on your word and monopolize this place. Don't you have any shame?" There were actually people from 2 forces guarding the entrance of the relic. One was the Xiahou clan of Nansang, and the other was also a great aristocratic family in the land of Eastern Qi, the Lu clan of Gaoping. These 2 clans were in the south of Eastern Qi, and the other was in the north of Eastern Qi. There was a huge difference in their sphere of influence, and the 2 clans were related by marriage, so at this time, they naturally joined forces. As for the other martial artists, they were alone and didn't have a leader. Of course, they couldn't compete with the alliance of the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan. One of the martial artists from the Xiahou clan said indifferently, "If we were shameless, our Xiahou clan wouldn't have reached this level of strength. Everyone, I advise you to save some energy. Little Fantian is so big. Why do you have to fight with us for the same relic? If you have the time, you might as well find another place to explore." At this time, Chu Xiao also walked out of the dense forest. When the others saw Chu Xiao, they immediately looked at Chu Xiao. After all, Chu Xiao was a young talent who ranked 4th on the Longhu leaderboard. He was a powerful figure who had the record of killing a martial Dao master. As soon as they saw Chu Xiao, the people from the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan immediately became vigilant, and focused all their attention on Chu Xiao. The martial artist from the Xiahou clan said coldly, "Chu Xiao, this is not a place you can covet. The 2 martial Dao masters in the Guanzhong torture room are not here. You and I will not interfere with each other's business. If you leave now, everyone will pretend that nothing has happened." In terms of the degree of fear, the dozen or so martial artists present were not as fearful as Chu Xiao's people. Now the people from the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan were afraid that Chu Xiao would lead those martial artists to attack them together. However, to everyone's surprise, Chu Xiao just nodded and replied, "Oh." Then he turned around and left. Seeing Chu Xiao's attitude, both the people from the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan were stunned. Since when did Chu Xiao become so easy to talk to? One must know that Chu Xiao's reputation in the underworld was not good. It was widely acknowledged that Chu Xiao was extremely arrogant, unreasonable, and tough. This did not seem to be Chu Xiao's style. However, When the other martial artists saw that Chu Xiu had left, they had no choice but to leave as well. Just as the martial artist from the Xiahou clan said, before a clear treasure appeared, it was better to look for other places than to fight for a relic here. Seeing that everyone had left, the people from the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan heaved a sigh of relief. The people from the Lu clan were puzzled. According to the rumors in the underworld, Chu Xiu is not an easy person to deal with. He actually retreated? Didn't the Xiahou clan deal with Chu Xiu before? Could it be a trap? The martial artist from the Xiahou clan waved his hand indifferently and said, "No matter how strong Chu Xiu is, he's not a real martial Dao grandmaster. Now that we have several experts at the unity of heaven and man realm here, he's also very wary. Instead of fighting with us, it's better to save some effort and look for other relics. Don't worry, we'll just explore in peace. After that, we'll split the loot 50-50. With the relationship between our clans, it'll be easy to negotiate." At this moment, from the other side of the dense forest, a black-clothed man with an expressionless black iron mask walked out of the dense forest. He was surrounded by demonic flames. The moment they saw this person, the expressions of the people from the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan changed. It was Lin Yi from the Yinma clan. Previously, they might have been a little unfamiliar with this name. However, as the matter of the morgue spread throughout the underworld, the name of the outstanding demonic cultivator, Lin Yi, also spread throughout the underworld. The other party was also not an easy person to deal with. Therefore, the people from the Xiahou clan wanted to tell him what he had said to Chu Xiu just now to make him retreat. However, just as he opened his mouth, Lin Yi had already made his move. Boundless demonic aura enveloped them, and everyone's qi and blood began to boil. The several martial artists at the unity of heaven and man realm could not help but groan. The spirit of the Xiahou clan's martial artists shone with golden light. However, before they could make a move, Lin Yi waved his hands and a powerful mental energy erupted. The invisible spirit condensed into the form of a 7-string zither. As Lin Yi's hands moved, demonic music pierced everyone's ears in an instant. It was the soul-suppressing Hades tune. Invisible sound waves poured into the minds of the Xiahou clan's martial artists. The first breath directly shattered their mental energy, and the second breath caused their mental energy to backfire. By the third breath, the Xiahou clan's martial artists actually looked like they were enjoying it. However, a large amount of blood flowed out of their 7 orifices, and they immediately fell to the ground dead. The Lu clan's martial artists were just about to rush forward when they saw the miserable state of the Xiahou clan's martial artists. They were immediately shocked and prepared to turn around and flee. This Lin Yi was simply too demonic. Without saying a word, he came up and wanted to kill. This time, the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan also had martial Dao masters who entered the ruins. They must report this matter to their superiors and even join forces with the righteous Dao sects to kill this demon. However, before they could completely escape, they saw the demonic aura behind Lin Yi. Wisps of qi and blood seeped out of the Xiahou clan's martial artists' corpses and merged with the demonic aura around Lin Yi. In an instant, an evil Buddha with demonic aura and blood intertwined appeared behind Lin Yi. Holding a demonic saber, it slashed down with a loud bang. Blood and qi soared into the sky, and the demonic aura was monstrous. Demon Buddha form of slaughter. One saber slashed one person. Whether it was earth energy or weapons, they were all destroyed by this saber. In less than 10 breaths, there was no one left alive in the entire area. After withdrawing his earth energy, Chu Xiu calmly stepped into the ruins. Only now did Chu Xiu realize that the identity of the demonic Dao was still more useful. There was no need to listen to so much nonsense. If he wanted to kill, just kill. Since he was already in the demonic Dao, how bad could it be? If there was a disagreement, he could just directly attack. In the face of absolute strength, using his own saber and fists to solve problems was undoubtedly the fastest. However, the people who were unlucky were the Xiahou clan and the Lu clan. The two clans had sent out relatively young unity of heaven and man realm martial artists. At the very least, they were existences who had a certain chance of stepping into the martial Dao Grandmaster realm in the future. If they were not killed by Chu Xiu, These people would have almost a 30% chance of becoming martial Dao grandmasters in the future after experiencing the tempering of the spirit qi in Xiaofan heaven, and finding some spiritual herbs and resources in Xiaofan heaven. Although this probability was not high, in reality, in the Jianghu, the probability of an unity of heaven and man realm martial artist becoming a martial Dao grandmaster was less than 10%. It could be said that this time, Chu Xiu almost killed 2 or 3 martial Dao grandmasters. The Xiahou clan and the Lu clan had suffered a great loss this time. Of course, this had nothing to do with Chu Xiu. After dealing with these people, Chu Xiu also stepped into the main hall of the ruins. Looking at the external buildings of the ruins, it should have been a Taoist temple, and the area was not small. When Chu Xiu stepped into it, he was greeted by a headless heavenly venerate statue. The entire main hall had half collapsed and looked slightly dark. Coupled with the headless heavenly venerate statue, the whole scene was slightly strange. Chapter 548. There was only a headless celestial statue in the dim hall. The whole scene was slightly strange, but Chu Xiu didn't care. The most terrifying thing was always the living, not those evil ghosts. Chu Xiu rummaged back and forth in the hall of the Taoist temple, and didn't find anything valuable. Maybe there was something before, but now it was completely covered by dust. No one knew the origin of Xiaofan. It was only in the last 1,000 years that Xiaofan began to appear frequently. Of course, it might have appeared in the past, but no one paid attention to it. It was only in the last 1,000 years or so that people figured out the various rules in Xiaofan, and began to enter it in groups. The various relics in Xiaofan were passed down from ancient times. The most precious of them were naturally some of the ancient martial arts, just like Chu Xiu's Heaven and Earth intersecting Yin and Yang Great Sorrow poem. However, the main hall of this Taoist temple was a little damaged, and there was nothing good in it. Bypassing the main hall, Chu Xiu entered the back of the Taoist temple. The inside was even more damaged. Chu Xiu dug up the collapsed courtyard and found nothing. Raising his eyebrows, Chu Xiu thought to himself, I can't be so unlucky, right? According to past experience, the collection in the relics in Xiaofan was relatively rich. There would almost never be a situation where people would return empty-handed. How could I be so unlucky? After killing so many people, I found nothing in the first relic? At this moment, Chu Xiu pushed open the last room in the back of the house. It was not damaged. It seemed to be the residence of a disciple in this Taoist temple. There was a booklet on the desk, which was relatively well preserved. Chu Xiu looked at the material. Although it was just ordinary paper, it seemed to be soaked with the juice of some exotic flowers and herbs, so it could be preserved for thousands of years. He picked up the booklet and looked at it. It was not a martial arts secret book, but a diary. Martial artists in Jianghu rarely had the habit of keeping a diary, because most of the martial artists from sects and aristocratic families had a relatively boring life. Other than cultivating all day, there was nothing to record. The person who wrote this diary seemed to be a chatterbox. All sorts of trivial things were written in it. Chu Xiu was quite interested in it. Through this diary, Chu Xiu also learned that the name of this Taoist temple was Lingbao Temple. The person who wrote this diary was a direct disciple of Lingbao Temple. Most of the things recorded in the diary were interesting things that happened in the Taoist temple. Today, second senior martial brother was caught peeping at widow Wang bathing in the east of the village. He was punished to copy the spirit treasure scripture 1,000 times. Senior martial brother is so stupid. If he peeped at anyone, he would be punished to copy the spirit treasure scripture 1,000 times. Why didn't he peep at the prettiest girl in the village, Xiao Hua? Senior brother even said that adults only look at the figure while children look at the face. In any case, I feel that Miss Xiao Hua is the most beautiful. Today, Master caught a spirit beast white tiger and said he was going to skin it and give it to High Heaven sect master as a gift. At noon, martial Uncle Chui Wen's tiger meat was really disgusting. Second senior brother even secretly asked martial Uncle Chui Wen for the tiger's penis. I knew second senior brother wanted to eat it all for himself. The most delicious part of a white tiger is definitely its penis. Haha. Today, third senior brother taught me the second wood eternal spring secret. I learned it in the morning. I also used the seed to grow a dog's tail flower in front of Miss Xiao Hua. Miss Xiaohua was very happy. I wanted to kiss her, but Miss Xiaohua left angrily and said that I was bad. It shouldn't be. Second senior brother gave Widow Wang a flower, and he started to like Widow Wang. Widow Wang was even happier, but why was Miss Xiaohua angry? Is the dog's tail flower not beautiful? AI, women are really hard to understand. Today, eldest senior brother stepped into the real pellet state and condensed 36 spirit treasure rays. Master said that he has achieved minor success in martial arts and is qualified to walk in the martial world. I really envy eldest senior brother. When can I condense the real pellet state? It will probably take a long time. After all, eldest senior brother is the most hardworking in the temple. When we are playing, eldest senior brother is cultivating. When second senior brother is peeping at Widow Wang bathing, eldest senior brother is still cultivating. Originally, Chu Xiu was still very happy to read this diary, but when he saw this one, Chu Xiu was shocked. The eldest senior brother in this diary should be a young disciple, but he actually stepped into the real pellet state and became a martial arts grand master. Even so, his master said that he had achieved minor success in martial arts and was qualified to walk in the martial world. Is this temple famous in the ancient times? Or is the martial arts level in the ancient times really so terrifying that only a martial arts grand master is considered minor success? However, according to Chu Xiu's thoughts, it should be the former because Shui Wuxiang and others said that the aura in the ancient times was strong. The average level of martial artists was indeed stronger than now, but it was not so ridiculously strong. At least, Shui Wuxiang and others should be between the real pellet state and the real fire god refinement state when they were at their peak. The martial arts level in the ancient times was somewhat different from the present. At least in the ancient times, the real pellet state was just the real pellet state, but no one would call the real pellet state martial artists a martial arts grand master. Chu Xiu continued to read, and the following content made him even more interested. Eldest senior brother stepping into the real pellet state seems to have stimulated the other senior brothers. Second senior brother doesn't go to find Widow Wang secretly, and he starts to cultivate at night. Third senior brother also doesn't study those messy martial arts arrays, and he starts to concentrate on his cultivation. They are so hardworking, so I should also work hard. Today, Master talked about the unity of man and nature. He said that to recognize the world, you must first recognize yourself. The 3 flowers at the crown is an illusion, and the cloud under your feet is not real. Cultivation is to cultivate yourself. If you can't see through yourself, how can you see the world clearly? This paragraph was written for a long time. Fortunately, the owner of this diary was a chatterbox, so he wrote almost every word that his master said in the diary, so Chu Xiu was almost fascinated by it. Chu Xiu had always been unorthodox. Without the guidance of a master, the martial arts he pursued was only the way of fighting, but he was slightly weak in the core of martial arts. Chu Xiu cultivated Taoism, Buddhism, and demon at the same time. Only the demonic arts could match his own foundation. Chu Xiu didn't need anyone to teach him. Some things on Buddhism martial arts, Chu Xiu also completed some when he accepted the inheritance from Master Tam Yuan. Only this Taoist martial arts, Chu Xiu learned less, and he understood even less. The only time Chu Xiu understood something was when he went to participate in the God Weapon Conference and passed by the Water Cloud Temple. He listened to the Taoist priest Xian Cheng talk about the 5 Qis gathering in Yuan. The master of the owner of this diary was also the temple master of this spirit treasure temple. Obviously, he was a Taoist expert, and his understanding of Taoism had reached the point of returning to the natural state. This diary only recorded some of his master's understanding of Taoism, not cultivation methods. But for Chu Xiu, it gave him a feeling of enlightenment, causing the aura around Chu Xiu to start boiling. Wisps of true qi floated, and Chu Xiu's body fell into a strange state. The ethereal aura surrounded Chu Xiu's body. He unconsciously used the heaven's sun gazing at air, but not to look at others, but at himself. The 3 flowers at the crown was an illusion, and the cloud under his feet was not real either. One must wake up from a great dream and return to the dust without roots and limits. The truth of the Great Way was ethereal, and only oneself was the most real existence. From the 3 flowers at the crown to the 5 Qis gathering in Yuan, Chushio re-examined these two most important realms for himself. The aura on Chushio's body also fell from the oneness of heaven and man to the 5 qis gathering in Yuan, and then to the 3 flowers at the crown. In the end, it began to climb back to the oneness of heaven and man realm. However, the aura was more solid and profound than before, and the hidden danger on his primordial spirit had been repaired. Miracle Dr. Feng Buping said that Chushio could either break through to the martial Dao Grandmaster realm, or rely on elixirs and cultivation methods. Now Chushio did not use these 3 methods to repair the hidden danger, which was also a kind of good fortune. This diary brought a temporary improvement to Chushio's strength, which was more powerful than a cultivation method. The diary had almost been flipped through by Chushio, but the last few paragraphs recorded in the diary made Chushio feel a kind of creepy feeling. What happened during the great ancient calamity? Eldest senior brother came back and brought news of the 3 Pristines temple. Master's face was very ugly, and the other senior brothers were also very flustered. What happened? The earth dragon turned over, and Green Mound Town was completely destroyed. There was also the extraterrestrial firestone that smashed into the village, but it was defeated by Master's spiritual treasure glow. The people in the village all came to thank Master, saying that Master is a living god, but Master still looked very ugly. Master said that the calamity has already begun. The spirit treasure temple is protected by incense, so when the calamity begins, we have to protect others. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior brother. They all went. I wanted to go too, but Master said that I was still young and would only cause trouble if I went. Death. Second senior brother died, and before he died, he asked me to give his belongings to Widow Wang. Third senior brother also died. Before he died, he said that he would give me the general principles of the 5 elements formation that he finally researched, but I don't want to learn formation. Third senior brother, can you come back to life and teach me personally? Fourth senior brother who loves to eat meat is dead, and fifth senior brother who likes to secretly drink is also dead. Why are you all dead? Master is dead. Why? Why? Eldest senior brother came back without an arm. He said that we have to leave because the spirit treasure temple protects one side, and because Master is dead. The 3 Pristines temple gave the spirit treasure temple 2 places to leave. But why only 2 places? Why do we only have 2 places after so many people died? I don't want to go. I still have to go. Eldest senior brother asked me if I wanted to leave the secret box and leave some incense for the spirit treasure temple, but I refused. The incense of the spirit treasure temple is with eldest senior brother and me, not with those cultivation methods. I'm leaving. Goodbye, Miss Hua. Closing the diary, Chushio let out a long breath. There were too many details in this diary. What was the great calamity of the ancient times? Where was the place that the spirit treasure temple was going? These things were all mysteries related to ancient times. Chapter 549. Chushio was very interested in the secrets of the ancient times, and he believed that many people would be interested too. However, it wasn't the time to study these things in Xiaofan Tian. Chushio was also a very realistic person. No matter how interested he was in these things, it wasn't as important as the benefits he could get right now. Therefore, Chushio directly put the diary into the secret space box and walked out of the Taoist temple. Originally, Chushio was going to leave directly, but when he saw the corpses of Xiahou and Lu family, Chushio slapped his head and suddenly thought of something. He immediately searched the corpses and took the key to Xiaofan Tian from the corpses. Actually, Chushio rarely searched corpses before. One reason was that most of the people who died in his hands were weaker than him and didn't have any good things on them. And those who were stronger than him, those who came from sects didn't have any good things, and those who came from sects had limited good things. For disciples of some big sects, other than some things that they often used, most of the elixirs and resources would be kept in the sect. They wouldn't carry them around with them. It was the same for cultivation methods. They would usually remember them in their heads. Even if some people would carry it with them, they would only carry one volume of the cultivation method and not the whole thing. In order to prevent the cultivation method from being lost, The big sects would only allow their disciples to receive the corresponding cultivation method when they reached a certain realm. They were afraid that the cultivation method would be lost. Even if a cultivation method was taken away, it wouldn't be of much use. If someone could deduce all the complete cultivation methods from one volume, that person would definitely be a top figure in Jianghu. The cultivation method in his hands would definitely be 10,000 times stronger than the one that was taken away. Since that was the case, what was the point of him doing this? Therefore, even though Chu Xiu killed people, he didn't get many treasures. Now, the key to Xiaofan was an amazing thing. If you were killed in Xiaofan, the key would naturally be taken by someone else. Therefore, every time you entered Xiaofan, the number of people from each sect would be different. Last time, you had 5 keys. But this time, 4 people were killed, and you didn't kill anyone. Then the next time you entered Xiaofan, you would only have 1 key. This represented the weakening of a power. Therefore, the stronger sects would have more keys, while the weaker sects would have fewer and fewer keys. Right now, Chu Xiu had found a total of 9 keys. It could be considered a bountiful harvest. Of course, he had also broken the rules. In Xiaofan Heaven, everyone's tacit agreement was to fight for resources first. No one would take the initiative to kill others, and their main goal was to seize the key. In the end, Chu Xiu did not say a single word after he appeared as Lin Yi. This was clearly against the rules. Of course, from the very beginning, when Chu Xiu decided to appear as Lin Yi, he did not intend to abide by the rules. At this time, 100 miles away from Chu Xiu in the east, 100 feet tall pitch-black demonic tower stood on the ground. Although the Devil Pagoda looked damaged beyond recognition, it was clear that this 300-meter-tall Devil Pagoda was not an ordinary object. At this time, dozens of martial artists at the unity of the heaven and man realm were fighting over the first floor of the Devil Pagoda. These dozens of martial artists were even divided into dozens of forces. It was rare for 2 people to come from the same force, so it was impossible for them to join forces. So at this time, seeing such a magnificent relic in front of them, they could not help but start fighting fiercely. Among these people, Lu Fengxian was one. However, even though Lu Fengxian was not weak, she also could not fight out of the encirclement. In fact, among these martial artists who entered Xiaofan Heaven, there were not many young martial artists like Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian. Most of them were martial artists at the unity of the heaven and man realm who were not too young, but not too old either. In terms of age and potential, although they could not compare with Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian, they also had the potential to become martial arts masters in the future. In terms of the accumulation of power, they were not much weaker than the young elites. There were even many martial artists at the unity of the heaven and man realm, like Mr. Lu in the past. So even if Lu Fengxian had stepped into the unity of the heaven and man realm at this time, and also had the 9 heavens demonic golden body, and the demon god unparalleled halberd, he could not defeat these people in a short time and take the lead. He still had a trump card, which was the divine weapon unparalleled, that belonged to Marquis Lu Wenhou in the past. However, unparalleled was a 9 transformation divine weapon, and Marquis Lu Wenhou had injected too much power into it in the past, causing Lu Fengxian to find it difficult to use unparalleled, and the consumption was too great. So unparalleled was only used as a trump card by Lu Fengxian. The weapon he used was still his previous halberd. Among the warriors present, LV Fengxian was one of the strongest. He was also the one who was targeted the most. The other young elites were also targeted. This was also the reason why the other sects wanted to suppress the other party. For example, Yan Fian was one of them. Yan Fian had not yet reached the unity of the heaven and man realm. She was still at the 5 Qis unifications, but relying on the sword techniques of the Yunu Palace and some of the trump cards in her hands, she was not afraid of ordinary unity of the heaven and man realm martial artists. It was a pity that there were no ordinary unity of the heaven and man realm martial artists in Xiaofan Heaven. To be qualified to enter here, one either had potential or strength, so Yan Fian had a hard time fighting. In particular, there was a unity of the heaven and man realm martial artist from the Hidden Sword Villa, who was targeting Yan Fian. Don't think that there were no conflicts between the 5 major sword sections. In reality, the conflict between the 5 major sword sects was the biggest. Killing people in public was shedding all pretenses, but this kind of suppression in a group battle was not a problem. Yan Fian panted, looked at a middle-aged man in front of her, and said coldly, Cheng Yuandong, you are considered a senior in the pugilistic world, but you are targeting a weak woman like me. Don't you feel ashamed? Cheng Yuandong laughed and said, if I were to target others I would definitely feel embarrassed, but Miss Yen, you are not a weak woman. Your sex palace Lord Lin has embarrassed my hidden sword villa many times in the past. The villa lord has instructed us to take care of the junior sisters of the Yunu Palace after entering Xiaofan Heaven. The Yunu Palace's palace Lord Lin Fengya's temper was not very good. In the pugilistic world, there was not much preferential treatment for women, other than their reputation. Because of her personality, Lin Fengya had offended many people. Those people might not stoop to her level because she was a woman, but now was the time for revenge. The long sword in Cheng Yuandong's hand carried bursts of sword light. One man and one sword even condensed into a small sword formation, completely crushing with power, suppressing Yan Fian to the point of being miserable. Just as Yan Fian was about to be unable to hold on, a powerful halberd attacked from the side. With a loud bang, it directly pushed Cheng Yuandong back. Shaking his numb arm, Cheng Yuandong looked at the newcomer with deep fear in his eyes. Little Marquis Wen Lu Fengxian. Little Marquis Wen Lu Fengxian was not as famous as his good friend Chu Xiu, but to be able to be in the top 10 of the Longhu leaderboard, how could he be a simple character? Moreover, this person had the inheritance of the ancient demon god Lv Wenho. He was not someone easy to deal with. Cheng Yuandong looked at Yan Fian and laughed strangely, saying, there are no male disciples in the Yunu Palace, but at this critical moment, we still need to rely on men. Lady Yan's charm is indeed great. Previously, there was the heir of the Shang Shuiying family, Ing Bailu, who was infatuated with you. Now there is also little Marquis Wen Lu Fengxian who came to save the damsel in distress. TSK, I can't afford to offend you, I can't afford to offend you. If you continue fighting, will even that monk Zhong Xian be moved by you? After saying that, Cheng Yuandong directly turned and left. Anyway, he did not intend to kill Yan Fian. Now seeing that Lu Fengxian had come, he also retreated in the face of difficulties. However, at this moment, Yan Fian was so angered by Cheng Yuandong that her face turned red. His words just now were basically mocking her own people for being able to use her looks to find a man to rely on. Yan Fian's self-control was not bad, but at this moment, she was also angered by Cheng Yuandong. However, after calming down, Yan Fian still bowed to Lu Fengxian and said, thank you, young Master Lu, for saving me again. Lu Fengxian nodded and said, Lady Yan, you don't have to be so courteous, and you don't have to care about what that person said just now. Women roaming the Jianghu have a lot of right and wrong to begin with. If you only listen to their words, then you don't have to do anything. Don't care about the words of others, just be yourself. That's enough. Yan Fian nodded, but he still sighed. Lu Fengxian saw that Yan Fian was not in a good mood, so he changed the topic and asked, Lady Yan, this time, how many people from your Yunu Palace came? You didn't go to meet them? Yan Fian shook her head and said, there's no need to meet them. I came alone. When Lu Fengxian heard that, he was instantly shocked and said, just you? Even your master didn't come? According to Lu Fengxian's thinking, although this generation of the Yunu Palace's strength was not good, they still had a foundation. How could there only be one key? This shouldn't be the case. Yan Fian saw through Lu Fengxian's thoughts and explained, my master's injury has not healed yet. Last time, thanks to young Master Lu's favor, although I invited divine Dr. Feng Buping to treat my master, he still needs to recuperate for a period of time. The competition in Xiaofan Heaven is fierce. We, the younger generation martial artists, have already fought so fiercely. The fights between the martial arts masters will definitely be even more intense. So this time my master simply gave up the opportunity to enter Xiaofan Heaven, and the strength of the other disciples of my Yunu Palace is somewhat lacking. I'm afraid that when they enter Xiaofan Heaven, they are only here to give the keys to others, so they didn't come. Lu Fengxian nodded and expressed his understanding. It was his first time entering Xiaofan Heaven, but he also saw the intensity of the competition here. Even Yan Fian, with his strength, had no way to protect himself when he entered, let alone the other weaker martial artists. At this moment, a wave of demonic aura came from afar, and Chu Xiu's figure appeared in the field, immediately causing a commotion. When LV Fengxian saw Chu Xiu appear with Lin Ye's identity, a strange look appeared in his eyes. Clearly, he had thought of something. Chapter 550. Chu Xiu had never told Lu Fengxian that his other identity was Lin Yi from the Hidden Devil clan, but Chu Xiu had never hidden it either. Ever since Chu Xiu was seriously injured, Lu Fengxian had vaguely guessed Chu Xiu's identity. After all, the incident last time was a bit big, and Chu Xiu happened to be in seclusion, causing his primordial spirit to be permanently damaged. There was no such coincidence in the world. So now that Chu Xiu had appeared as Lin Yi, Lu Fengxian was almost certain that he was Chu Xiu. At this moment, when the people present saw Chu Xiu coming, they all stopped what they were doing and looked at Chu Xiu with fear. Before, they were not afraid of Yan Fian, but that was because she was only a woman. She was famous because of her identity, not because of her strength. Although they were a little afraid of Lu Fengxian, it was not too serious. After all, Lu Fengxian had just stepped into the unity of heaven and man realm, and her battle record on the Longhu list was not that strong. However, Lin Yi was different. He was someone who had forced Nie Renlong of the Morgue Manor to be willing to exchange his position as the manor master. During the trip to the northern Yan, countless experts from Nie Renlong's manor had died in his hands. Countless famous rogue cultivators from the northern Yan land had also died in his hands. In the end, people even heard that Nie Renlong was so angry that he even asked the Blue Dragon Society to help, but in the end, they still failed to kill Lin Yi. Lin Yi was indeed a talent cultivated by the Hidden Devil clan. His strength was terrifying enough, and it was enough to make them fear him. But just when they were about to say something, Chu Xiu spoke first. "This is a devil tower." Everyone present was stunned. Did you even need to say that? Even an idiot could tell that this style of architecture was definitely not Taoist or Buddhist. If I'm not mistaken, I'm the only one here who belongs to the demonic path. So this demonic tower is fated with me. It should belong to me. Everyone, please disperse. Everyone present was taken aback. No one had expected Lin Yi to say something like that. Cheng Yuandong of the Hidden Sword Villa immediately sneered and said, "Lin Yi, are you an idiot or are you treating us as idiots? You are fated with this devil pagoda, and I can say that the entire Xiafanshan is fated with me. Do you think you're the young celestial master Zhang Qingzhen? You think you can make us retreat with just a few words? You don't have the right to do that." It was widely acknowledged that the young celestial master Zhang Qingzhen had the strength comparable to most martial Dao masters. If Zhang Qingzhen was here, he might really be able to scare off dozens of people if he wanted to be domineering for once. Coupled with the prestige of the celestial master mansion of Longhu Mountain. However, it was obvious that whether Chu Xiu used his original identity or Lin Ye's identity, it was far from achieving such an effect. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "So you mean you have to snatch my things?" Everyone present frowned. What did Lin Yi mean by that? Did he spoil his brain from cultivating demonic arts? However, before everyone could react, Chu Xiu had already taken a step forward. His body was surging with demonic flames. He punched out, and the boundless demonic flames wrapped in pale golden gang qi fell, making Chu Xiu look like a god or a demon. A martial artist at the unity of heaven and man realm standing in front of him immediately felt a powerful pressure like a mountain. In the face of such a powerful force, the warrior who bore the brunt of the attack wanted to escape, but Chu Xiu's punch had already sealed off all possible escape routes around him, leaving him with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The martial artist made a prompt decision. Seeing that his escape route had been sealed, he did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. Rich blood qi burst out of his body and fused with his gang qi. He erupted with his extreme power, wanting to block Chu Xiu's punch. Unfortunately, he had still underestimated Chu Xiu's current strength. As the punch landed, the powerful wave caused the ground to tremble twice. A cloud of blood burst out, and the martial artist was directly killed by Chu Xiu on the spot. Just now in the Spirit Treasure Temple, Chu Xiu had completed the foundation of his Taoism lineage through the few words in the diary. This not only healed the hidden danger in Chu Xiu's primordial spirit, but also improved his martial arts foundation and realm. Chu Xiu cultivated the three lineages of Taoism, Buddhism, and Devil at the same time. They were like the three sides of a bucket. The lowest side was the lower limit of the bucket. Now that Chu Xiu had made up for his lower limit, his strength had naturally soared by a lot. Looking at the people present, Chu Xiu said lightly, "We of the Devil Dao do things more straightforwardly. Since you want to steal my things, I can only kill you. I gave you a chance to leave on your own just now. Since you don't want to leave, then fine, I will personally send you on your way." If it was a motley crew, Chu Xiu's first punch would have been able to scare off many people. However, these people were either the elites of the younger generation of various sects or the elites of major martial arts forces. Their quality was not something that a motley crew could compare to. Chu Xiu gained the upper hand by showing off his strength, but not only did this move not make the crowd retreat, it instead made them angry at Chu Xiu's domineering behavior. Therefore, someone immediately roared, "A Devil Dao villain dares to be so arrogant. He is simply lawless. Everyone, let's kill this Devil Dao villain first, then we can fight for the Black Demon Tower together." Dozens of martial artists at the unity of heaven and man realm attacked together, and not a single one of them was mediocre. Even an ordinary martial arts master would feel somewhat troublesome and frightened by this kind of power, but Chu Xiu was not afraid. It was not that Chu Xiu was arrogant, but that his Devil Dao martial arts were most proficient in this kind of group battle. Yan Fian, who was standing to the side, also wanted to make a move. Although she had been suppressed by Cheng Yuandong before, she was still a disciple of the Yu Maiden Palace after all, so she naturally had a part in eliminating demons and defending the Dao. Otherwise, when she went out, those martial artists of Jianghu might say something about her. However, before Yan Fian could make a move, Lu Fengxian stopped her in time. "Miss Yan, if you believe me, then don't make a move. Otherwise even I won't be able to save you." Yan Fian pointed at the scene and said in surprise, "That Lin Ye's behavior is simply crazy. He actually dared to fight dozens of people alone. Even a martial arts master would not feel good. He is almost certainly going to die. Brother Lu, you aren't from the righteous path or the demonic path. But as long as you follow me to kill a few demonic path villains in the Xiaofan heaven, when your name spreads out, you'll gain some prestige in the Jianghu. It's better than following people like Chu Xiu and ruining your reputation." Lu Fengxian pondered for a moment and said, "I, Lu Fengxian, do not walk the righteous path, nor do I walk the evil path. I only walk the path that belongs to me, and I don't care what others say. As for that Lin Yi, I can only say that he is 10 times or even 100 times stronger than me. I am not exaggerating, Miss Yan. You better think thrice before you act." Hearing Lu Fengxian say this, Yan Fian's expression also changed slightly. Although she had not interacted with Lu Fengxian many times, she could be considered as someone who understood Lu Fengxian better. Lu Fengxian was a very proud person. There were very few people in this world who could make him admit that he was inferior to them. Moreover, Yan Fian knew Lu Fengxian's strength, but now Lu Fengxian said that Lin Yi was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than him. Just how strong was this Lin Yi? However, Yan Fian soon saw how strong he was. Facing those warriors who were charging at him, the mind energy in Chu Xiu's mind seemed to have condensed into a substance, turning into a 7-stringed zither. The pleasant sound of the zither spread out, but in the ears of those warriors who heard it, it was as if they had been pierced by demonic music. They all let out muffled groans, and their bodies slowed down or even stopped moving. Those with weaker cultivation already had blood flowing out of their ear orifices. Previously, when Chu Xiu used the soul-subduing Hades song to deal with the people from the Xiahou clan, it was because they themselves were using mind energy. Therefore, Chu Xiu was able to cause the other party's mind energy to backfire, and he did not need to make a move himself, causing the other party to collapse on their own. Therefore, Chu Xiu's soul-subduing Hades song could not kill so many people now. However, this was not his only method of killing people. Just as everyone was in a daze from the soul-subduing Hades song, Chu Xiu formed a seal with both hands. In an instant, boundless demon chi enveloped a portion of his mind energy and condensed it into a human figure, charging towards a Unity of Heaven Realm warrior at the very front. That Unity of Heaven Realm warrior wanted to burn his blood essence to fight for his life, but before he could do anything, a boundless mind energy net had already enveloped him, forcibly pulling at his primordial spirit, causing that warrior to let out a shrill cry of pain. Silk Soul Net. After being pulled by the Silk Soul Net, that black human figure directly seeped into the other party's body. In an instant, that Unity of Heaven Realm warrior did not move at all, and his eyes were filled with a dull look. This was the soul-snatching soul-shifting technique of the major 9 techniques of soul capture. Its attribute was the most overbearing, and it needed to be used in conjunction with the Silk Soul Net. First, using the Silk Soul Net to pull out a portion of the other party's primordial spirit, then using one's own mind energy to snatch the soul-snatching soul-shifting technique, completely turning the other party into a puppet. Moreover, Chu Xiu also discovered that the characteristics of this technique were somewhat similar to the soul-snatching soul-shifting technique. He did not know if the founder of the Kunlun Devil cult, who had created the major 9 techniques of soul capture, had used the soul-snatching technique as a reference. However, this was not the time to think about this. Under Chu Xiu's control, that warrior immediately turned around and attacked the people behind him. He was not dead, and he still retained his combat instincts. Furthermore, he was not afraid of death, and he was simply fighting with his life on the line. In a short period of time, he had already exchanged for 2 people at the cost of serious injuries. He completely disregarded his own injuries, and did not allow anyone to take a step closer to Chu Xiu. However, he was only one person, and it was obvious that he could not take care of everyone. Just as he realized that the pressure on him was increasing, Chu Xiu also felt that this body was about to run out of fuel, so he directly controlled this warrior to self-destruct. A loud bang rang out, and the sky was filled with a mist of blood. Several warriors at the forefront had already been seriously injured and vomited blood. Chapter 551. There were countless evil techniques in the devil path, but Chu Xiu's 9 forms of soul assimilation was considered one of the most evil techniques, even among the many techniques of the Kunlun devil cult in the past. Right now, the hidden injuries in Chu Xiu's primordial spirit had been healed, and the power of his primordial spirit had even increased to a higher level. Warriors of the same level, even if they were warriors from the Nansong Xiahou clan who specialized in mental strength, were here, they would still be unable to compare to Chu Xiu. Therefore, at this moment, almost none of these warriors could block Chu Xiu's Silk Soul Net and soul snatching and soul transfer. After a warrior self-destructed, Chu Xiu immediately changed his target. He used the Silk Soul Net to pull the warrior's primordial spirit, and then used the soul snatching and soul transfer to control the warrior's mind. He used the crudest method to forcibly turn the warrior into a puppet to fight to the death with others. This was the first time Chu Xiu had used this method, so he was still not very familiar with it. After the first person self-destructed, Chu Xiu directly unleashed all his mental strength and controlled the bodies of 3 people at the same time, fighting to the death with everyone present. If one died, he would control another. If he was too heavily injured, he would immediately self-destruct. This strange method of fighting caused the number of people present to decrease as they fought. They had not even touched a hair of Chu Xiu's, and nearly 10 people had already died. However, there were people who were prepared to ignore those puppets and attack Chu Xiu. After all, 3 puppets could not hold back dozens of people. However, if a few people came in front of Chu Xiu, it would basically be no different from courting death. With Chu Xiu's powerful strength, if 1 punch did not kill them, he would use 2 punches. If 2 punches did not work, he would use 3 punches. The complete suppression of power had already caused everyone present to despair. They had never seen such a terrifying guy. There were many martial arts in the Jianghu, and everyone was good at different areas. Most warriors who were good at mental strength, poison, or other strange methods usually did not have strong close combat killing abilities. They could even be said to be extremely weak. But now Lin Yi was just like that. Not only was his physical body so powerful, but his strength was also so terrifying. In the face of such an existence, they simply could not find any hope of defeating him. A feeling of despair involuntarily rose in the hearts of everyone present. Yan Fian, who was at the side, watched in horror as Chu Xiu massacred dozens of people by himself. His face revealed an expression of lingering fear. Where did the Yinma clan find such a monster? He had such terrifying strength the moment he stepped into world of martial arts. With Yanfian's strength, if she rushed up, she would definitely not be a match for Lin Yi. Even if she had the various trump cards of the Yunu Palace, she would probably only be able to barely survive. Only now did Yanfian remember what Lin Fengya had warned her about before entering Little Fan Tian, about the cruelty of the competition and the dangers within. There were many experts here, and everyone was here for benefits. No one would care about your reputation and status in the outside world. Other than being extremely careful, there was no other trick in Xiaofan heaven. Young Master Lu Fengxian, you saved me again. Yanfian let out a long sigh and thanked Lu Fengxian, who was beside her. Lu Fengxian looked at the scene and was stunned for a moment before shaking her head and saying, "It's all right. Danger lurks everywhere in Xiaofan heaven. Miss Yan, you are only one person. Only by being careful can you make it to the end." Actually, the shock in Lu Fengxian's heart was no less than Yanfian's. Although he knew of Chu Xiu's strength, he did not know how much strength Chu Xiu could display using the identity of Lin Yi. In the end, it seemed that Chu Xiu's strength was still so terrifying after changing his identity. Brother Chu was indeed Brother Chu. At this moment, there were already more than 10 people who had died in the hands of Chu Xiu. Some of the people present had already begun to have thoughts of retreating. Lin Yi was indeed overbearing. If he did not have the strength, the people present would not mind joining forces to kill him. They would just treat it as eradicating an evil demon. However, they did not expect Lin Yi's strength to be so terrifying. What was the point of fighting? Were they going to die? Although the Black Demon Tower did not look like an ordinary item, it was obvious that they could not get their hands on it. Xiaofan Heaven was so big. There must be ruins comparable to or even better than the Black Demon Tower left behind. They did not want to die here. However, at this moment, someone suddenly shouted, "The eminent monks of the Great Light Temple are here." Everyone present looked over. Indeed, 2 disciples of the Temple of Great Light dressed in white monk robes were speeding in their direction. One of the 2 monks in white robes was a young man. He was bare-chested and casually draped in a monk's robe. However, everyone could still see his majestic muscles that seemed to be cast from steel. This was none other than Wisdom Monarch Zhongxian. The person next to Zhongxian was a middle-aged monk. He had a full beard and was tall and mighty. Judging from his aura, he was actually a martial Dao master. Some people present had already recognized him. This middle-aged monk was the head of the Dharma Hall of the Great Light Temple, Flaming Buddha Venerable Su Xing. He was one of the younger heads of the 6 martial halls of the Great Light Temple. Seeing that the Great Light Temple had not only sent Zhongxian, but also a martial Dao master, the warriors present immediately became excited. Cheng Yuandong of the Hidden Sword Villa even shouted, "Head Su Xing. This demon covets the Black Demon Tower behind us and ruthlessly slaughtered more than 10 of us. Head Su Xing, please seek justice for us and kill this evil demon." Everyone present subconsciously glanced at Cheng Yuandong and thought to themselves, "Why is this guy speaking in such a submissive manner?" Although they also wanted the Great Light Temple to deal with Lin Yi, Cheng Yuandong's words were too unpleasant. What did he mean by seek justice? He made it sound like their status was below that of the Great Light Temple. Although this was indeed the case, they were all elites from the top sects of the pugilistic world, so they still had some pride. However, at this moment, Cheng Yuandong suddenly felt a chill envelop his body. Cheng Yuandong subconsciously looked up and happened to meet Chu Xiu's gloomy gaze. This caused Cheng Yuandong's heart to tremble, and he thought to himself, "This is bad." In the previous battle, Chu Xiu did not actually target anyone. After all, they were all enemies, and he would kill whoever was close to him. Killing was all up to fate. Cheng Yuandong was a rather cunning person, so he subconsciously felt that something was wrong. Therefore, when he attacked from the beginning, he stayed at the back and did not even get injured. At this moment, his words caused Chu Xiu to focus his attention on him. Cheng Yuandong could be considered decisive when it came to escaping. When he sensed that something was wrong, he did not even have the intention to fight back and immediately turned to flee. At this moment, Chu Xiu's entire body was shrouded in demonic aura. The blood aura of the corpses on the ground had also fused with the demonic aura around Chu Xiu's body under the support of the demonic blood technique. It transformed into an extremely evil slaughtering demon Buddha avatar that crushed towards Cheng Yuandong. Originally, Cheng Yuandong was still quite a distance away from Chu Xiu. As long as the warriors present slightly obstructed Chu Xiu, he would still have a chance to escape. However, Cheng Yuandong was courting death. His words earlier made the warriors present rather unhappy, and Chu Xiu's strength was still there. Who would dare to go against Chu Xiu at a time like this? Therefore, after Chu Xiu made his move, this group of people even subconsciously chose to avoid him. Boundless demonic aura and the pungent smell of blood assaulted Cheng Yuandong from behind. This caused Cheng Yuandong to immediately choose to burn his blood essence in shock, wanting to escape. However, just as he was about to burn his blood essence, he was shocked to find that the qi and blood around his body were actually not under his control. The intense burning caused his qi and blood to scatter back and forth. He could not use it to increase his speed at all. Before Cheng Yuandong could react, Cheng Yuandong was directly cut into two under the demonic might of the Carnage Devil Buddha form saber. When Su Xing saw this scene, he was instantly enraged. He shouted angrily, "How dare you! You actually created such an evil thing to humiliate my Buddhist sect. You deserve to die. You deserve to die." Previously, when Su Xing heard Cheng Yuandong's words, he was unable to react. He did not know who Lin Yi was. As the Dharma institution's first seat, Su Xing was definitely considered one of the upper echelons of the Great Guangming Temple. Although he had heard of the top 10 warriors on the Longhu list, Su Xing would not pay attention to the movements of the younger generation on the Longhu list all day long. Therefore, he was still somewhat unfamiliar with Lin Ye's name. In the end, before he could figure it out, Lin Yi had actually attacked and killed Cheng Yuandong right in front of him. This was simply a provocation. Moreover, although Chu Xiu's murderous demon Buddha was born from the great Vajra divine power, in the end, Chu Xiu had integrated his own demonic power into the great Vajra divine power, and created the murderous demon Buddha through the slaughter. Although it was a martial art that combined the demonic and the Buddha, in the eyes of orthodox Buddhist monks like Su Xing, such an evil thing like the murderous demon Buddha was simply a blasphemy and insult to their Buddhist sect. Zongxian, attack with me and kill this evil spirit. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Xing's body flashed with a dazzling Buddhist light as he charged toward Chu Xiu. Zongxian paused for a moment before he followed suit. When he saw Su Xing and Zongxian, Chu Xiu immediately cursed inwardly. Things were getting bad for him now that he had encountered these two. Chu Xiu knew Zongxian's strength. It was extremely terrifying, enough to rival some powerful martial Dao masters. Although he did not know Su Xing's strength, since he was the first seat of the Great Light Temple's 6 major martial courtyards, he would definitely not be a weakling. Chu Xiu might be able to fight against one of them, but if there were two, Chu Xiu was not confident. However, at this moment, Lu Fengxian, who had not made a move before, suddenly laughed and stepped forward. She pointed halberd at Zongxian and said in a deep voice, "I've long heard of the Great Light Temple's Wisdom King Zongxian's reputation. I've always wanted to meet you. I'm the Northern Yan itinerant cultivator Lu Fengxian, and I've come to challenge Wisdom King. Master Zongxian, please advise me." Seeing Lu Fengxian's action, everyone's expression changed. No one had expected Lu Fengxian to challenge Zongxian at this time. Yin Fian stood beside Lu Fengxian. She wanted to stop Lu Fengxian, but it was too late. Chapter 552. Lu Fengxian had suddenly jumped out to challenge Zongxian. This had indeed exceeded many people's expectations. Lu Fengxian had obtained the demonic god LV Wenho's inheritance, and was ranked in the top 10 of the Longhu leaderboard. She was indeed somewhat famous in the underworld. However, compared to Zongxian, the two of them were worlds apart. Most importantly, Lu Fengxian had now challenged Zongxian when he was preparing to deal with Lin Yi. The people present did not immediately suspect the relationship between Lu Fengxian and Lin Yi. However, in their opinion, Lu Fengxian did not know what was important. Perhaps it was because he had suddenly become one of the top 10 of the Longhu leaderboard from a nameless loose cultivator, and had even obtained a great opportunity and a great inheritance. This had caused Lu Fengxian to become a little arrogant and lose his sense of direction. Hence, he had immediately challenged Zhongxian after seeing him. This kind of thing was not uncommon in the underworld. Moreover, the people who encountered this kind of thing the most were Zhang Qingzhen and Zhongxian. There were even some nameless nobodies who followed behind them all day, wanting to challenge these two people. They fantasized that they could defeat the strongest of the younger generation in the underworld and make a name for themselves. This Lu Fengxian looked like a rather clear-headed person. Why was he acting like this now? Yan Fian looked at Lu Fengxian and frowned. She wanted to stop him, but Lu Fengxian had already spoken. It was already too late. Although Yan Fian had not spent much time with Lu Fengxian, in her opinion, Lu Fengxian should not be the kind of person who was obsessed with fame and wealth. He was also not a martial arts fanatic who would recklessly challenge experts when he saw them. Now that he had challenged Zhongxian, he did not know what was important. This would have a very bad impact on his reputation in the underworld. At this moment in the arena, Su Xing, who had stepped forward first, had already started fighting with Chu Xiu. Seeing Lu Fengxian step forward to challenge Zhongxian, Chu Xiu heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Lu Fengxian must have recognized his identity. Chu Xiu remembered this favor, but now was not the time to talk about it. Chu Xiu did not even look at Lu Fengxian. He pretended to be a stranger and went straight to Su Xing. The Buddha flame around Su Xing roared and filled the air. The scorching power bloomed with countless rays of light. As Su Xing's fist fell, the raging flames filled the sky and illuminated the world. Chu Xiu didn't retreat. Before this, he had killed so many martial artists and absorbed their blood energy with the demonic blood art. Now facing Su Xing, Chu Xiu's demonic energy and blood energy had already fused into one. As he punched out, demonic flames filled the skies and killing intent surged. On one side was the demonic black and red demonic flames and blood energy. On the other side was the glorious Buddha flame that illuminated the world. Two completely different forces collided. Although Chu Xiu's realm was much lower than Su Xing's, his power was not the least bit inferior. The expressions of everyone present changed several times. It seemed that Chu Xiu had not used his full strength before. If he had used the same power just now, even if they were not completely annihilated, a few of them would definitely die. At this time, Zhongxian saw Lu Fengxian step forward to challenge him. His eyes flashed and he paused, as if he was thinking. After a moment, Zhongxian spat out a single word, "Fine." As his voice fell, Zhongxian punched out at Lu Fengxian. In the boundless Buddha light, there was a sudden explosion of astral energy. The fist's momentum was like a mountain crashing down. Everywhere it passed, all techniques were destroyed. For Zhongxian, he had no interest in two people ganging up on Lin Yi. If Su Xing had not been his elder, and had not ordered him to fight, Zhongxian would never have made a move. Hence, when he saw Lu Fengxian challenge him, Zhongxian did not hesitate to accept it. Lu Fengxian held halberd tightly in her hand. There was no sadness or joy in her expression. In fact, she even felt a faint desire to fight. Actually, Lu Fengxian was not a martial arts fanatic who liked to challenge and fight others. His desire to fight and kill were far inferior to Chu Xiu's. This time, although Lu Fengxian had stepped forward to help Chu Xiu out of his predicament, Lu Fengxian was also a little excited to be able to fight the legendary Wisdom King Zhongxian. At this moment, facing Zhongxian's incomparably mighty fist, the pitch-black demonic qi around Lu Fengxian's body revolved around him. However, it wasn't as monstrous as Chu Xiu's demonic flames. Instead, it was incomparably pure, and was only attached to his body and the ancient halberd. Halberd slashed down with a loud bang, and its majestic aura rose to its peak. On the crescent blade of the halberd, the sharpness of the blade was so dazzling to the eyes of the spectating warriors. Her physical body collided with halberd, which was a primordial weapon. In the collision of pure strength, the Buddha light extinguished the demonic aura around Lu Fengxian's body. The powerful force penetrated through her body, and made it difficult for Lu Fengxian to hold on to halberd. Her body was sent flying, and she only managed to stop after retreating more than 30 meters. Looking at Zhongxian, Lu Fengxian's eyes were filled with shock. What a powerful force! Lu Fengxian had always been known for his strength. Although he had not specifically cultivated a body-enhancing technique, Lu Fengxian was born with great strength. Therefore, his own strength was not inferior to some warriors who cultivated body-enhancing techniques. Later on, Lu Fengxian cultivated the Nine Heavens demonic golden body, and his own strength increased several times. However, he was still no match for Zhongxian. However, this was understandable. Lu Fengxian had just stepped into the unity of heaven and man realm, and had not been cultivating the Nine Heavens demonic golden body for long. However, Zhongxian had been training in this realm for several years, and was the only person in the Great Light Temple who had successfully cultivated the Moonlight King Azure golden body in recent years. There was no expression on Zhongxian's face after he sent Lu Fengxian flying with a punch. However, there was a hint of disappointment in his eyes that were covered by the Buddha's light. Lu Fengxian was weaker than he had imagined. He was much weaker than Chu Xiu, who had fought with him to the point where he had to use all his strength. Zhongxian had no patience for people who were not qualified to be his opponent. After the punch landed, Zhongxian was no longer in the mood to fight with Lu Fengxian. He formed a seal with his hand and smashed it down. The Wisdom King suppresses prison, destroys evil. The Wisdom King Seal. Facing the boundless power of the Wisdom King Seal, Lu Fengxian roared angrily. Demonic energy filled her body and there was a hint of scarlet in her eyes. She danced with halberd in her hands. It was a set of halberd techniques that looked extremely simple, but contained countless changes. The 36 halberds merged into one and smashed down like a god or a demon. As they collided, the ground beneath LV Fengxian and Zhongxian's feet cracked, and a powerful force seeped out. Zhongxian didn't move, and neither did LV Fengxian. However, the web between his thumb and forefinger had already split open, and traces of blood could be seen. However, LV Fengxian still didn't take a step back. The demon god's unparalleled halberd. This was the ultimate halberd technique that Marquis Lu Wenhou used to dominate the world. The Nine Heavens demonic golden body was only the foundation. Without a strong physical body as a foundation, the cultivator would not even be qualified to use the demon god's unparalleled halberd. Seeing that Lu Fengxian was able to block his Wisdom King seal, Zhongxian could not help but show a hint of surprise in his eyes. However, what made him even more surprised was that Lu Fengxian's tenacity was beyond his expectations. Although Lu Fengxian did not retreat, in reality, Lu Fengxian was clearly at a disadvantage. However, facing Zhongxian, after blocking his seal, Lu Fengxian took the initiative to attack. The halberd in her hand danced with a violent demonic aura. Strands of blood-red light were integrated into the halberd. Every time the halberd fell, Lu Fengxian could feel the power in his body burning crazily. However, at this moment, his eyes were already soaked by the black and red demonic aura. He did not lose his mind, but his fighting spirit was unparalleled, like a god or a demon. The demon god's unparalleled halberd was used to the extreme by Lu Fengxian. Although each strike consumed a lot of energy, the power was equally strong. It was already not easy for her to be able to withstand more than 10 strikes from Zhongxian without losing. However, after more than 10 strikes, Lu Fengxian clearly showed a dispirited state. The consumption of the demon god's unparalleled halberd was simply too great. This halberd art's might was abnormally strong, and those who weren't strong enough wouldn't even be qualified to use it. LV Fengxian was qualified, but every halberd strike of his was equivalent to a supreme martial skill. He had just stepped into the unity of heaven and man realm, and he wouldn't be able to sustain such consumption for long. Seeing that Lu Fengxian was in a disadvantageous position, Zhongxian's figure suddenly rushed forward. After forcefully blocking Lu Fengxian's halberd, he actually used both his hands to grab hold of Lu Fengxian's ancient halberd. Both of his arms were filled with boundless Buddhist light. At this moment, both of his arms had even turned into a transparent glass-like color, and one could even see his white jade-like bones. Break! With a low shout, Zhongxian directly crushed the halberd in Lu Fengxian's hands. The halberd in Lu Fengxian's hands was given to Lu Fengxian by Chen Qingdi. Although it was not a divine weapon, it was also at the 6th revolution level. Its power was not weak, but it was not as powerful as Chu Xiu's heavenly demon dance. In the end, in front of Zhongxian's physical body, even a 6th revolution divine weapon was crushed. One could imagine how terrifying his physical strength was. With the weapon destroyed, Lu Fengxian was sent flying by the powerful force. A stream of blood flowed from her mouth. Seeing this scene, everyone present could not help but shake their heads. Previously, they thought that Lu Fengxian was too arrogant to dare to challenge Zhongxian. But now it seemed that Lu Fengxian really had some skills to be able to fight Zhongxian to this extent. But unfortunately, Zhongxian was still the Zhongxian who was ranked second on the Longhu leaderboard. His strength had surpassed the limits of the oneness of heaven and man realm. Lu Fengxian was bound to lose. It was already glorious enough that he could withstand so many attacks and not be killed by Zhongxian's seal. Looking at Lu Fengxian, who was vomiting blood, Zhongxian did not continue to attack. He only said expressionlessly, "Admit defeat?" Lu Fengxian was only challenging him, not fighting to the death. So other than not showing mercy in the battle, Zhongxian did not kill him. As long as Lu Fengxian admitted defeat, Zhongxian would not continue to attack. But Lu Fengxian shook her head decisively. Seeing this, Zhongxian did not hesitate at all. He held the Great Wisdom King seal in his hand, and the Wisdom King Dharma idol condensed behind him. He slammed the seal down, suppressing sky, decimating earth. Chapter 553. If Lu Fengxian did not admit defeat, then Zhongxian could only beat him until he did. Zhongxian had used this great virtue Wisdom King seal before when he fought with Chu Xiu. Even Chu Xiu could only barely block it. With Lu Fengxian's current strength, if he tried to forcefully resist it, he would only end up with serious injuries. The great Wisdom Kings might suppress the heavens and the earth, his powerful strength causing a powerful pressure to appear in the space around him. Before the seal reached LV Fengxian, the ground in a radius of several dozen feet around her had already sunk several feet. Just when everyone thought that Lu Fengxian would definitely lose this time, Lu Fengxian took out a halberd from the space treasure. That halberd was more than 10 feet tall. Pitch-black demonic chi wrapped around the body of the halberd. A black glass dragon coiled around the body of the halberd and let out a dragon's roar. The unparalleled divine weapon. LV Fengxian gripped the unparalleled halberd with both his hands. In an instant his eyes turned bloodshot. The eyes of the glass dragon on the unparalleled halberd were the same as LV Fengxian, turning bloodshot as well. The halberd smashed down. It was a simple ultimate attack, but it exploded with a power that made people's hearts palpitate. With a loud bang, the great Wisdom King made of glazed Buddhist light began to shatter. The Buddhist light was engulfed and covered by the demonic chi. In the end, it shattered with a loud bang, and even Zhongxian was blasted back more than 10 steps. Everyone present was immediately silent, and their gazes towards LV Fengxian were filled with terror. Lu Fengxian had actually pushed Zhongxian back with a single strike of the halberd. This situation made everyone doubt their own eyes. Was a 9-revolution divine weapon really that powerful? However, the people present were not mediocre. After a moment's pause, they could tell that Lu Fengxian's condition was not very good. The unparalleled divine weapon was indeed very powerful, but if it was used without any burden or consumption, then Lu Fengxian would have used it a long time ago. Why would she still hold on to the celestial artifact that he used before? The 9 revolutions divine weapon, especially the one left behind by LV Wenho, consumed too much energy. Just now, Lu Fengxian had only used her halberd once, but his face had already started to turn pale. Although Lu Fengxian's face was pale before, it was now sickly pale. Zhongxian rubbed his arm, looked at Lu Fengxian and said emotionlessly, "Why don't you admit defeat? You won't be able to last more than a few hits like this." Lu Fengxian held Wushuang in her hand and said solemnly, "I just want to see where my limits are." Zhongxian said, "But after you see your limit, you might get injured. In Xiaofan heaven, you know what being injured means." Lu Fengxian didn't say anything, he just pointed at Zhongxian with Wushuang in his hand. Zhongxian nodded, understanding Lu Fengxian's meaning. His figure pressed forward again, the Buddhist light behind him shining, condensing into a Baisajayagura Buddha image that was hundreds of feet tall, compassionate and solemn. The image cast by the powerful Gang Qi was like glass, incomparably dazzling. This kind of power, not to mention a martial artist in the unity of heaven and man realm, Even some of the weaker martial arts masters couldn't reach this level. It was imaginable how powerful Zhongxian's power was. In the face of such power, LV Fengxian's demonic aura billowed to the heavens. With the divine weapon in his hand, the unparalleled demon god halberd was displayed by him. In an instant, the winds and clouds changed color. Boundless demonic aura surged forth, making LV Fengxian look like a god and a devil, incomparably violent. At this moment, Xue Wuxiang and the rest were not here. If they saw LV Fengxian's current state, they would most likely be even more loyal to her. And they would even think that LV Fengxian was the reincarnation of Lord Wenhou. Not for any other reason, but because the appearance of Lu Fengxian now was too similar to LV Wenhou in the past. If the previous Lu Fengxian was only 80% similar to LV Wenhou, but now with the divine weapon and the unparalleled demon god halberd, Lu Fengxian was almost 99% similar to LV Wenhou. With the 9 revolutions divine weapon and the unparalleled demon god halberd, Lu Fengxian was like a god and a demon, fighting intensely with the Medicine King Buddha image behind Zhongxian. But with every move, his face would turn a shade paler. After more than 10 moves, the ground under their feet was almost destroyed, and the Medicine King Buddha image was completely destroyed. But Lu Fengxian's face was as white as paper, and the hand holding the unparalleled demon god halberd was trembling, as if he had overexerted himself. Zhongxian's expression was still as cold as ever, without any change, and he didn't seem to have exhausted much of his energy. This was the truly terrifying part of Zhongxian. The last time Chu Xiu fought with Zhongxian, he had already discovered this. Zhongxian's terror did not lie in his powerful physique, nor did it lie in his bright king seal, but in Zhongxian's strength. When you fought with all your strength, only to find out that the opponent still had strength left, how much despair would that be? But at this moment, although Zhongxian's expression was cold, there was still some shock in his heart. Lu Fengxian's strength was far inferior to his own. But Lu Fengxian's body had a kind of toughness that couldn't be bent or broken no matter what. The stronger he met, the stronger he became. It was just like when Lu Fengxian was being hunted down by the morgue. Although the people who came were stronger than the last, Lu Fengxian was still able to kill his way out of the encirclement, even though he was seriously injured to the extreme, as if he couldn't be killed. And at this moment, there was a loud noise directly interrupting the battle between Lu Fengxian and Zhongxian. Everyone subconsciously looked behind them, and saw that the first floor of the Black Demon Tower had shattered with a loud bang. The entire Black Demon Tower had sunk a floor and tilted even more. While Lu Fengxian and Zhongxian were fighting, Chu Xiu and Su Xing were not idle. As they fought, they unexpectedly fought into the interior of the Black Demon Tower. In the beginning, Chu Xiu and Su Xing exchanged a few blows. A martial arts master of Su Xing's level was indeed not someone the current Chu Xiu could match, even if Chu Xiu's strength had greatly improved after the epiphany. But he was still somewhat unwilling to let Chu Xiu escape like this. If Lu Fengxian had not stepped forward to stop Zhongxian, Chu Xiu would definitely have used a secret technique to escape. With Zhongxian and the head of the Great Light Temple, Chu Xiu would not have been so arrogant no matter how arrogant he was. But now that Lu Fengxian had stepped forward and used all her strength to stop Zhongxian, if Chu Xiu did not leave after obtaining something, it would be somewhat unfair to Lu Fengxian. So after withstanding 2 of Su Xing's attacks, Chu Xiu's speed directly exploded to the extreme, and he escaped into the Black Demon Tower. Previously, everyone was fighting at the entrance of the Black Demon Tower and no one entered. So after Chu Xiu entered first, he immediately looked around to see if there was anything good. This Black Demon Tower should have been the headquarters of a demonic sect in the past. The first floor was the lobby, but at first glance, it looked extremely dilapidated. There were signs of decay and collapse everywhere, and there was nothing of value. And just as Chu Xiu looked around behind him, Su Xing immediately chased after him. Chu Xiu frowned. How could this old monk be so fast? As soon as he saw Chu Xiu, Su Xing shouted angrily, "Demonic scoundrel, you can't escape." Yeah. As soon as he said this, Su Xing formed a fist seal with his hand, and the swastika character in the golden Buddhist flame burst out, directly suppressing Chu Xiu. But at this time, Chu Xiu did not want to fight Su Xing head-on. He directly rushed to the second floor, and at the same time, his demon Buddha form of slaughter burst out to block the fist seal. Suddenly, a violent wave of power erupted. As the power completely erupted in the tower, the first floor, which was already in a state of decay, completely shattered with a loud bang. This was the scene that everyone had seen before. At this time, Chu Xiu had already reached the second floor, and below, Su Xing was buried underground. Seeing this scene, Chu Xiu frowned even more deeply. The degree of decay of the Black Demon Tower seemed to be somewhat beyond his imagination. Didn't this mean that most of the things inside had already decayed? For the majority of the sects that were presentable, their sects would definitely be protected by an array formation. Even if there wasn't an array formation, they would reinforce some of the key buildings, such as the main hall and the scripture depository, in order to prevent accidental damage. Given the size of the Black Demon Tower, it must have been reinforced by formations. It was impossible for a single exchange to destroy a floor. It was obvious that during the Great Ancient Calamity, the Black Demon Tower had already suffered heavy damage. The formations inside had all been destroyed, and it was now extremely fragile. And without the protection of formations, would some of the pills, cultivation methods, and other things in the Black Demon Tower also decay? This was also very likely. At this moment, Su Xing, who was buried below, roared angrily. The rubble and tiles around him were directly shattered into powder by him, and he charged straight at Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu did not delay. If there was nothing good on the second floor, he would go to the third floor. He really could not hide, so he exchanged a blow with Su Xing, temporarily resisting him, and then continued to escape. Therefore, everyone in the outside world could clearly see that the Black Demon Tower was collapsing and shattering at an extremely fast speed, as if it was self-destructing. In a short period of time, half of the Black Demon Tower, which had dozens of floors, had already disappeared. At this time, inside the tower, Chu Xiu, who was fleeing upwards to search, did not find much. The upper floors had a residence, a quiet room for cultivation, a pill room, a pharmacy and other places, and even a library. As a result, most of the things had indeed decayed. All kinds of precious spirit medicines in the pharmacy had turned into flying ashes, and there were still some pills placed there. Chu Xiu did not have time to open the lid to check, so he simply waved his sleeve and stored them in a secret space box, then continued to escape. The library was even more disappointing to Chu Xiu. It was already empty, as if someone had hurriedly moved away 90% of the things inside, and the few books that remained had also decayed. When Chu Xiu entered the library, a strong wind blew, and the scattered books on the ground instantly turned into flying ashes. Evil scoundrel! Die! At this time, Su Xing's roar came from behind Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu snorted coldly, and the demonic qi and blood around him erupted. He punched out, and the powerful forces collided. Another floor collapsed, and Chu Xiu's figure was also blasted away. However, Chu Xiu borrowed this force to go up another floor. But at this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly sensed that at the instant his demonic aura erupted, something on the upper levels had also sensed his demonic aura, and released a wave of energy. Chapter 554. Sensing the demonic qi fluctuations above the Black Demon Tower, Chu Xiu did not pause at all and rushed straight up. Su Xing had also sensed the demonic aura fluctuation. He couldn't help coldly snorting and chased after Chu Xiu. His face was filled with rage from embarrassment. He had originally thought that it would be a piece of cake for him to deal with this demonic Path Jr., but he didn't expect the demonic Path Jr. to be so strong. Although his foundation wasn't as good as a martial arts master like him, his explosive power was already enough to exchange several blows with him. Moreover, the other party was also proficient in speed-type secret techniques, so his speed wasn't slow at all. This made it even more difficult for Su Xing to catch him. At this moment, Su Xing also sensed the fluctuations above the Black Demon Tower. This demonic Path Jr. was simply daydreaming if he thought he could take something from him. Chu Xiu's entire body was filled with astral energy, directly smashing several floors before he finally arrived at the first floor that was emitting the demonic qi fluctuations. This floor was different from the floors below. In the lower floors, each floor was either a pill refining workshop, a secret chamber, or a row of houses used as residences for martial artists. This floor also seemed to be a residence, but it occupied the entire floor. It was obvious that the owner of this floor was not ordinary, and was probably a big shot in the Black Demon Tower. At the end of this floor, 7 blades hung on the wall. These 7 blades were placed in 7 connected black leather scabbards, which made it easy to carry and use. It was this leather scabbard that had emitted the demonic qi just now. Now that he was closer, Chu Xiu could even sense the cold demonic qi emitting from the leather scabbard. It was clearly not an ordinary item. In an instant, Chu Xiu came to a conclusion in his heart. If the scabbard was not an ordinary item, then the blade inside the scabbard was definitely even more extraordinary. Under the wall was a desk with messy animal skin scabbards scattered all over it. In ancient times, some martial artists were used to using these animal skin scabbards to write some ancient books on techniques and other things. Some of these animal skin scabbards were made from the skin of spirit beasts or vicious beasts, and could be guaranteed to not rot for thousands of years after being processed. Without any hesitation, Chu Xiu grabbed the 7 knives and the animal skin book on the table. But at this moment, scorching Buddhist flames descended from behind him. Su Xing had already appeared behind him, and a powerful punch was aimed at Chu Xiu's back. This punch came too fast and too fierce. Chu Xiu had no time to grab the 7 sabers. He could only choose to temporarily turn around to block Su Xing blood qi, and devil qi exploded. Chu Xiu still wanted to use Su Xing's power to seize the saber. However, Su Xing was a veteran. How could he make the same mistake twice? At the moment when the power broke out, the Voidwalker hand made a gesture, and several loud noises burst out from his mouth. The loud noises made Chu Xiu's qi and blood boil, and his body could not help but stagnate. The secret technique of the Temple of Great Light, 9 Transformation Lion Roar. Chu Xiu had experienced the lion's roar of 9 transformations before, but it was only one of the moves. Now that Su Xing attacked, he used the 4 transformations of 9 transformations in an instant. The shock made Chu Xiu feel a little dizzy. Su Xing descended from the sky, and Buddhist flames rose. The Bodhi treasure tree evolved from the Buddhist flames, and the power of heaven and earth lingered around the Bodhi treasure tree, pressing down on Chu Xiu. Buddhist flames purify the world. Bodhi subdue the demon. A strong pressure suddenly came. This was the full power of a martial arts grandmaster. Even Chu Xiu felt a very strong sense of danger. At this moment, Chu Xiu's qi and blood were burning, and boundless blood qi poured into the demon Buddha of Carnage. The demon saber in the demon Buddha of Carnage's hand turned blood red. This was not a simple demon Buddha of Carnage, but a transformation of the combination of the blood-killing saber and the demon Buddha of Carnage. During the battle between the righteous and demonic forces on floating Jade Mountain, many people had seen Chu Xiu obtain the blood-killing saber. Unless Chu Xiu was confident that he could kill Su Xing on the spot, he would not use the blood-killing saber in front of Su Xing. However, Chu Xiu's attainments in the demonic blood technique and the blood-killing saber were not low. Martial arts techniques were ever-changing, so why should they be superficial? Right now, Chu Xiu was also using the blood-killing saber, but he did not use it himself. Instead, he used it in combination with his dharma. Unless a warrior who had also cultivated the blood-killing saber came, no one would be able to see it. The evil demon Buddha of Carnage slashed out with the saber, and the blood-red saber tore through everything. No matter how fierce the Buddhist flames were, they were directly cut apart by the blood-red demonic saber. Amidst the bloody light, the Bodhi tree was cut down by the saber. After the rising blood mist, Chu Xiu's face was slightly pale, but his figure did not stop and went straight to the 7 sabers. Su Xing had been forced back by the blood-killing saber. At this time, he saw Chu Xiu go straight to the 7 sabers. Su Xing snorted coldly, and his hands formed a strange seal. The surrounding gang qi burned fiercely, and even the qi of heaven and earth began to ignite. The boundless Buddhist flames twisted everything, and the entire floor of the demon tower was instantly ignited, turning the area within 100 feet into a boundless fire domain. Moreover, the fire domain was constantly shrinking. Every time it shrank by a foot, its power increased by a fraction. This demonic flame also had the characteristics of suppressing demons and punishing evil. Within this fire domain, Once Chu Xiu used demonic arts, he would be suppressed several times. Su Xing's face was also a little pale. Even though he was a martial arts master, it was a little difficult to set up such a powerful fire domain at this time. However, the true martial core in his body was already constantly guiding the power of heaven and earth into his body, replenishing his strength. The demonic junior in front of him had indeed explosive power, but Su Xing was even more straightforward. He directly set the entire floor of the demon tower on fire, destroying all the demonic items. Let's see how you can take it back then. A cold light flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. This old bald donkey was extremely difficult to deal with. Seeing that the fire domain was about to attack, Chu Xiu formed a seal with his hands. In an instant, his mental strength was almost completely drained, leaving only a trace. The feeling of overdrawing one's mental strength was not a good one. Right now, Chu Xiu had painstakingly repaired the hidden danger in his spirit, but against a difficult old monk like Su Xing, he still had to use his full strength. Boundless, invisible mental strength lingered in the void, condensing into an invisible arrow. With Chu Xiu's mind as the bow, it shot toward Su Xing. This was the soul-destroying arrow of the 9 major forms of soul capture. Its power was extremely simple. It was to explode one's mental strength to the extreme, using the soul to destroy the soul and the opponent's spirit. Most of the 9 primordial spirit mystic techniques in the 9 major soul-capturing styles were evil, like the soul string net and the soul-suppressing Hades song. Only the soul-destroying arrow was fierce and direct to the extreme. Although it was a primordial spirit mystic technique, it was as violent and fierce as a close combat martial skill. As soon as the soul-destroying arrow was released, it whistled silently. Although Su Xing could not hear the sound, he could feel a powerful spirit pressure coming towards him. Su Xing formed a Baisajaya Buddha hand seal with his hands and protected himself with a glazed golden light. At the same time, he wanted to dodge. But as soon as he moved, he felt an aura lock onto him. The soul-destroying arrow's trajectory changed in advance, almost synchronizing with his dodging. It was extremely strange. When Chu Xiu used the soul-destroying arrow just now, he still had a trace of mental strength left. This trace of mental strength was what Chu Xiu used to cast the Heaven's Sun Gazing at Air. When this technique was used in conjunction with the Heaven's Sun Gazing at Air, it would be a fatal blow, and its power would multiply. After changing his body several times, Su Xing finally gave up. No matter how he dodged, the arrow was like a maggot attached to a bone, sticking close to him without letting go. The moment the soul-destroying arrow approached, Su Xing let out a furious roar. Glazed golden light shone brightly, and his vitality surged as he resisted the primordial spirit arrow. But now, Chu Xiu's mental strength was no weaker than a martial arts grandmaster's. It was even stronger than a martial arts grandmaster like Su Xing, who had never cultivated a spirit secret technique. The arrow, which had condensed all of Chu Xiu's mental strength, gently collided with the glazed Buddha's light, and instantly tore it apart. Even the dense power of his vitality was unable to completely block the arrow. The power of the soul-destroying arrow exploded, and a mental storm swept out. Su Xing immediately grunted, and his face turned pale. Even his eyes temporarily lost focus. This was clearly a sign that his primordial spirit had been injured. After a few breaths, Su Xing finally recovered. Although his head still felt like it was being twisted by knives, he still wanted to attack, but it was already too late. A few breaths of time was very short, but a lot could be done in it. Without the support of Su Xing's power, the Buddha's flame domain no longer expanded. Chu Xiu also successfully obtained the 7 knives and the hide book. By the time Su Xing came back to his senses, the level they were on could no longer withstand the powerful force and collapsed. Seeing that Chu Xiu had actually obtained the 7 sabers in front of him, Su Xingdong let out a cold snort. Ignoring the sharp pain in his head, he once again punched at Chu Xiu. Although his mental strength had been heavily injured by the soul-destroying arrow, Su Xing did not use mental strength. Moreover, with his willpower, he could completely suppress the pain of his mental strength being injured. As he held the sheaths, Chu Xiu subconsciously tightened his grip on the knives. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Lin Ye's identity had never used a knife technique before, so Chu Xiu was worried that he would be exposed. However, now that he had obtained 7 seemingly extraordinary demonic knives, he did not have to worry about being seen through as long as he did not use his signature martial technique, the 3 blades of Avicii. Chu Xiu casually grabbed one of the knives and pulled it out. However, the moment the knife left the sheath, Chu Xiu's expression changed drastically. A wave of power came from the knife and left the sheath. The knife seemed to have been unsealed, and a strange aura erupted in an instant. It was not demonic qi, but a kind of obsession. Greed. 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 The moment Chu Xiu grabbed the knife, his will was instantly enveloped by this greed. His eyes turned red and endless greed shrouded him. At this moment, Chu Xiu wanted to possess everything. He wanted to devour everything. As the knife slashed down, the essence of the world within 100 feet was sucked dry by the knife. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.